My name is Nia Mitchell, and I love Cite Black Women. And I participated when I was with Black Women's Matter Alliance, their research working group. And so during Black Maternal Health Week, we were able to uplift scholars in maternal health, reproductive health. And so I've been a fan for some time, but I recently finished my PhD. I'm a
Congratulations.
qualitative, oh, thank you. It's a PhD in qualitative methodology. And I'm used to I come from like the nonprofit sector, working in reproductive health rights and justice. And so I'm transitioning to a faculty position. So I'll be at U of I this spring, teaching like qualitative inquiry methods, qualitative data analysis, and I would say throughout my coursework, my dissertation, it was like I was doing like double duty in terms of learning what they wanted me to learn and then pulling from Black women scholars because I was rooting my work in Black feminism. And I'm just trying to figure out how to continue to balance, I would say, the work that I do in terms of research and evaluation inside and outside of the academy, not just in terms of who I cite, but even in terms of publications. Like I've already been told, like be careful with the book chapters, be careful with like nonprofit publications. It needs to be peer reviewed. And so, how do I balance? Maybe just looking for some guidance in terms of just my own practices as a researcher and evaluator that is more participatory, community engaged, a little more radical. It's rooted in equity and justice, but doing that in the academy that seems at times to be in opposition to that work. Um,
I'll start. Good to meet you here, and thank you for your support of Cite Black Women. Um, all of us as Black women, as Yasmiyn mentioned, are probably carrying so many hats. So I recognize and honor that. Um, for me, the best strategy, I'll just try to keep it this to be direct, has been to do the work that I want to do, that I find interesting and important beyond me, and to do it really well as best as I can. Sometimes it's not great. Like there's previous publications I wish I could revise, but to make sure that work might be translatable in a way where it could provide fruitful for our metrics. And so I think I mentioned I was the author on the Cite Black Women's statement. That was just, I had time and capacity to help do that statement at that moment. But I was really excited to do that because I wanted people to read the statement and for it to have that sort of academic currency. And so I could write in my own like reflection, hey, I've been doing this work. This is aligned with how I approach the academy. This is helpful for my own inclusion, retention, and all of those sorts of things, but here is a publication for that. I have worked extensively to support Black students on campus, so many hours that is unpaid. And then finally I was like, let's write up about this experience. Let's talk about our experiences on campus. Um, and I published with 4 undergrads. That was a slow project, but I love it, and people are reading it and citing it. It's on anti-Blackness at HSI, so you can check that out. So sometimes it's like starting here and then being like, okay, this work mattered for this way, but I'm also going to make sure that like I can name it and have it pay me in the way that like the academic currency exchange market goes. And then the second piece is also just like being loud and vocal about the work that we do. I am definitely like naming hours, naming meetings, naming the time. If you do the community work, bring the community members to campus, bring the campus members to the community, make sure like they see that work, because so much of us can be invisible, period, in the academy. Our work is especially invisible. And so when I'm doing this work, I am like in your face about it as much as I can. One, because again, I love bringing youth to the community or to the campus to see what's going. Like I think it matters in that way, but I also just don't want I don't want it to continue to be hidden. And I think the more and more, like, I've seen other Black women do this and I do this, then the more and more we can see like the community efforts. And then finally you'll realize down the line that somebody changed the policy and now a policy report matters for a citation. But that's because people have been doing that work for a long time, you know? So that's just like some of the practical advice I would share.
Yasmiyn or Daisy, do you have anything you want to add?
I guess also, and first of all, by the way, that HSI article is fabulous. I like sharing it with everybody. It's such a good paper. I think I'm gonna like second what Whitney said about like finding ways to do what it is that you want to do, but within the parameters of what you need to facilitate who pays you so you can do it, or you know, right? Um, but I'll also say that it's also about striking a balance by thinking about who you're speaking to in that moment and why. I think like sometimes we get this feeling like we should be doing policy reports and we should be doing this without even knowing who our audience is or why we're doing it, and then putting more noise into the world too, under the guise of like dissemination and just saying things without intentionality. And so if there are communities you want to be in communication with, there's many different ways to do that. Sometimes that's just a meetup. Sometimes it's a write-up. Sometimes it's, you know, it can be many different things, right? But thinking about being intentional with why you're doing it and who you want to reach will reduce your like need to feel like you need to publish everywhere so that you're reaching all the constituencies and all this narrative that becomes jargon for a wasted time that could be invested more intentionally with care, for the kinds of things you want to do. And so, and as somebody like, so I do some like I'm an associate director for a policy institute, and I do some policy work. But sometimes that's not a write-up. Sometimes it's literally being present in the policy space and speaking out loud about something in a way that brings my knowledge there in that moment that matters. And so I find that like when I think with care about who I'm trying to communicate and why, I'm much more intentional. I write maybe a little less, but I write with more intention, and purpose. And I think that that has an impact that matters.
Thank you.
Daisy, I can't tell if you're trying to unmute or.
Oh, I would just say, as someone that's also a junior scholar writing to different things, I like to reread my contract so that I can remind myself why they hired me and what they hired me for. So in my contract, for example, I'm going into a Black Studies department. Amazing, great. At the same time, I'm not a historian. So a lot of people that you want me to cite and speak to, that is not my field. There is someone in this department that does that, but that is not what I do. I do Black feminism in Latin America, and that is what I will write to, and that is how I will write. Will there be history or whatever the department requires involved? Yes, of course. But at the same time, I am not who you have had before. There is a reason why you hired me in the radical work I do now, to have the conversations that you want your students to have now. So be bold in who you are, but also read the handbook and know where you have what criteria you have to meet when, and how would that work for you. And sometimes um internally, because we want things to be perfect, we make things more complicated than they are in our heads because it feels like a hurdle. And it's just time consuming and a long process, but it's not difficult to just be you. You are hired and you are where you need to be for a reason.